Welcome to the Daydreams podcast. I'm your host, Elle Morris. This episode, we have an R&B singer with incredible talent. Her new single, Headin Out, is out now on Spotify, with a mixtape of tracks coming soon. For artist content and news on the latest Daydreams, follow us on Instagram at Daydreams Podcast. Now, without further ado, Ashton Edminster. Enjoy. So, where were you born?
I was born in Dallas. Well, Irving. The hospital wasn't Irving, but like I grew up in Midlothian, Texas, which is like a small town 30 minutes outside of Dallas. Mm-hmm. No real support system within the arts there. So I just grew up kind of always going. That's why when people are like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Dallas, just because that was the place that supported me. And so I started taking voice lessons and guitar lessons and songwriting lessons when I was 11. Mm-hmm. And so I just grew up going to Dallas once a week with my mom for like, up until I was like 18. And then I started gigging when I was 14. So I've just been kind of like, I'm really glad that my parents took me seriously. And especially at 11 years old, I mean, like you hear like 8 to 10-year-old daughter being like, I want to be like a pop star. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how my parents were. I mean, they couldn't even afford the lessons. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult for them to like, let me go do stuff. Yeah. Even if I fully believed in myself.
I think with my parents, they're like such realists though. Like they're business people. They're not creative at all. And I say this every interview because I just think it's so funny. Like there's no background or history of anything within the creative industry in both sides of my family. And so I was just kind of like the black sheep, but I think my parents understood what it actually meant to me and not that it was just a fun hobby. And so whenever I said that I wanted to do it, I remember specifically asking for voice lessons, and they were just like, oh, that's kind of like a serious request. You know, it's not like I'm asking for piano lessons. It's not like I'm asking to like sign up for soccer. It was very much it's like, I want to be good at this. And so I like, once I started taking lessons at 11 over the years, they were just like, I mean, they were very blunt with me. They were like, this is probably going to be like what your college is. Like if you decide later on down the road that you want to go to college, you're going to have to pay for it yourself, which is like totally fine. But they're like, we want to invest in what you want to do. And you know, this is the long game. So if you want to be in this industry, you got to like start early. Not to say that there's an age where you can or can't start, but I think they knew that this was the only thing that I wanted to do.
What age were you when you thought you could sing, or you were like exploring your voice?
I think, honestly, whenever I was like a toddler, my mom caught me like humming songs and singing along to songs. And I was very much a mimicker. Like I would grow up listening to like Radio Disney, and I would like, if there was a Miley Cyrus song, I would make myself sound like Miley Cyrus. If there was a Demi Lovato song, I'd make myself sound like Demi Lovato. And I feel like that's just like kind of not normal for a child. Like, I mean, any kid will sing along to the radio, but I like made it a mission, and I like took notes because the science behind vocals and just everything is so intricate. I mean, like my producer who's in the room with us, he's really good at like, if I need to get to a certain place, he'll just be like, I know you can make yourself sound like this person, so try to just do a little bit of that, but like with your flair to just like kind of emulate a certain sound. But yeah, when I was like a kid, I just grew up watching like musicals and like all these different musicians, and I just wanted it so bad. And it was the only thing that I cared about, you know, like I wasn't in sports. I started theater when I was 10. And I just think that in itself made me realize it's like, I'm on a stage, like I really like this, but even more than being on a stage, I like telling a story.
When you were a child, well, one question I have for you is, do you think vocals is something anyone can learn? Is it because you practiced a lot that you think that you were able to get the voice that you have today?
I think that I truly think that anybody can do music if they want, you know? I think it all relies behind passion and like consistency, because I feel like there's so many people that can sing, but you know, it's not their passion, so they just don't. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, they have other passions that are completely valid, you know? But I think that if you love music and you have a love for music and you want to be a musician for the sake of music, not for the sake of credibility and like a status, then I think that you should do it, you know? And it may be like a lot more work than someone who may have more of a natural born singing voice. But I feel like that might push you even more and give you more drive and cause you to be more consistent. My parents made me practice an hour every day, you know? And even though I would say that I have like a naturally like kind of standard base level good voice, I think that in my parents making me realize that this is a gift and I like have to nurture it, you know? Like you can have a gift and it can take you only so far, but if you I mean, it's like a flower. It's like you can have a flower for a seed and that's all it's going to be until you actually like put in the work to make it grow. And it can grow bigger and bigger and bigger is like within the way you nurture it. And so I feel like if anybody really wants to be a musician and be an artist and be a singer, they should do it, you know?
How does practicing your voice happen?
So when I was a kid, I haven't like done these vocal warm-ups in so long, but when I was a child, like, and I started vocal exercising, it was like bass line. So it was just like the, oh, like all that stuff. And then I would practice whatever song I wanted to sing that week for whatever showcase my vocal school was doing. But then it got to the point where I was doing shows every week and I was maybe like 17 or 18. And my vocal coach was just like, you don't really have to do that much anymore because you're singing for like 2 to 3 hours every week. You know, that's like a lot of time. And I still definitely use those vocal scales. I think that they're always gonna, I mean, it's like stretching, but yeah, the science behind vocals is crazy. And sometimes I even catch myself doing stuff and hitting notes, whether they're like super low or super high. I didn't know I could do that.
And what's the science behind it so much?
I think it's just like whenever you go to like an ear, nose, and throat doctor, sometimes if they inspect you, they'll put a camera down your throat and you can see your vocal cords. And it really is like a muscle and you really have to take care of it. Like I make sure I drink a gallon of water every day. And all of this being said, I consider myself a songwriter first over a singer, but I think to deliver certain songs, you have to like have a certain tone of voice. So I think whenever I'm writing, I try to make my writing the most intimate experience possible. I want people to understand that this is something that I'm like going through in real time or something that I've gone through in real time. And it's scary to be vulnerable. So I think that's why when it comes to how I sing, I don't belt a lot, you know, I save belting for rare occasions, but I feel like whenever I'm singing a song that I write, I just want it to feel like I'm talking to someone who wants to feel seen or heard, or even I want to feel seen and heard, you know?
Yeah, I could tell in the private link that you sent me, the upcoming album you have coming out in the end of summer.
Yeah.
You're more melodic and you do hold back the belting. And maybe I heard it like once or twice in there, but it was like pretty melodic throughout.
Yeah. I just like, I really want, because I do love to sing. I really do. But at the end of the day, if I could be left with one ability, it would be songwriting. I just feel like it is one of the biggest art forms that will outlive anybody, you know, because I think vocalists will be remembered throughout like time over years and years and years. But it's like you think back to like songs like It Is Well, you know, like that was a song. Not a lot of people know who that's by. I don't even know who that's by, but I know the song because those lyrics are so just like blunt and powerful. And so I think with melodic, the way I sing is that I'm very scatterbrained, and in my day-to-day, the way I talk to people, I can come across very like too much or like very aggressive, not in a mean way, but just in like I have a lot to say and I have a lot of passion behind it and I just want to be heard so bad that whenever I sing, I'm very much just kind of like collected and I'm like, okay, I have my thoughts. This is me. I'm going to tell them to you directly. And a lot of my unreleased acoustic stuff that I always send CJ, that has a lot more belting because it's just me and my guitar and it's very much like a cry out. But I think when it comes to the music that I put out, sometimes that stuff is too vulnerable that I just want people to hear the lyrics. And who's to say, like, as an artist, I've adapted and changed so many times after doing this for over 10 years. Who knows, maybe within the next couple of years, I might release something where I'm belting more or like something with a complete different sound. But I think that's the beauty of exploration as an artist is that it's like, I'm not done. There's so much
You
more.
grow into yourself.
Yeah.
How do you think your music has changed since you were in high school to now?
Gosh, I think it's crazy. And it's like, it's not an ongoing joke, but it's like an ongoing thing that all of my friends know. Because when I started music, I was very much folky singer-songwriter. And that's like the first music that I released. And for some reason, that was the one that just like took off out of nowhere. Like, it's like with my highest numbers and everything. And I have a lot of like identity crises about it. But I think at the end of the day, like I look at the stuff that I do now that is more like R&B influenced. And I feel really proud because I mean, I think there's something like R&B has been one of my favorite music styles ever since I was a kid. And so over the years, I just thought that I couldn't do that because I have a little bit of a more softer, like melodic voice. And then over the years, seeing how women in R&B have really like taken a different approach to it, not to say one is better than the other, but it's just been really cool to like give like a softness to it, you know? because I feel like different genres have subgenres. It's like a multiverse, you know, like, and I could talk about it for so long just because I think it's so interesting. It's like a color wheel. Every style has a sub style and every genre has a subgenre. And
I hear we're like kind of genreless. Albums that are produced have like multiple different genres, and even one song there's multiple different genres.
Yes. I'm so glad that like I feel like we're finally, because I love like, you know, the early 2000s, like 2010s pop era, like that was great. I feel like there's so much good stuff in that. But I feel like now we're approaching an era of music where people just kind of like don't care. They just want to do what they want. And I feel like one of the best examples of that, at least like on a mainstream level, has been SZA's last album. Like there were so many different layers, like the song that she did with Phoebe Bridgers, like, and then like a couple tracks later, she did a track with a Scott, you know, like there's multitudes of layers even with that. And with her as a mainstream artist, with each different song having their own different audience, I think is really cool. And it's giving people permission to realize that, yeah, like I would classify myself as an R&B artist, but like at the end of the day, I'm just a singer-songwriter. And I think that's what everybody is. So it's just been really cool and exciting. And I feel like there's a weight taken off the shoulders of so many because there's so much to be said about consistency as a musician. And I feel like that consistency shouldn't be style-wise. I feel like the consistency should show up in how you write and how you portray this message and how you deliver the message, not so much the songs need to flow. I think there's beauty in having songs flowing, but I feel like it's more so it's just like be consistent in who you are as an artist, not by sound, but by context.
I feel really vulnerable when I try to write songs.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's really hard just to put the words on the paper.
It's
because I'm like, is this going to sound stupid?
Yeah, no, like I think it's just like being in this industry ever since I was so young and putting myself out on social media and all that stuff at so young, like especially growing up in a town. It sounds like I'm talking about like Footloose or something, but like growing up in a town where it's like there wasn't a lot of super artistic people, or if there were, then they kind of like stood in the back and were just like, this isn't something I can, you know, like pursue. So I'm just going to like not nourish it. I feel like my whole life I've been worried about looking stupid, and to this day I still do, and that's what one of the tracks really is about, like, you know, like Try Hard. Like that song is very much just like I'm so sick of putting myself in the position where I think other people think I'm stupid, but like 9 times out of 10 people don't care, and even that 1% out of 10, who really gives a shit about what they think?
Who gives a shit? No. Because their opinion, their thoughts and ideas of you, they're not contributing to your life in any meaningful way. And is this going to matter in 3 months, 5 years? On your deathbed, are you going to be thinking about who this person was and that they thought this specific thing in this space and time?
Yeah. And
they're not.
Yeah. And it's just, and that's where the thing where it comes back to like art is one of the only things that will outlive us all on this earth. And so it's just like, while I'm worried about if one line in one song sounds stupid, who knows, like my children's children can hear this song and maybe they relate exactly to it. And that's the thing that like changes the trajectory of their life. So who am I to worry about whether I sound stupid or not? Like I'm already taking one step above someone who has feelings that they don't want to share. I'm putting it on a platform. So who cares if I feel stupid? There's probably thousands of other people that feel stupid the same way I do.
It is vulnerable putting things that you create out on the internet for people to judge and see.
I know.
And especially growing too, because if you put something out like, you know, my first podcast, you know, I can tell that, you know, I'm not on my best skill.
Yeah.
And I know that I still have so much more to grow in. Yeah. And people get to witness that progression through time.
Yeah. And I think that's just kind of one of the harder things about it's like I'm very grateful for the career that I have and like the place that I am at and the place that I've gotten to. But I think that is kind of one of the harder things is like the first song that I ever released is the one with like the most traction and the most streams. And I'm so grateful for it. But it's also kind of hard because it's just like, dang, like my starting point is the thing that I'm compared to the most. But it's hard because I feel like while that song is great and while I do mean every lyric that I wrote in there, I was 14 when I released that. So now 10 years later, I feel like I'm kind of begging people to listen to this new stuff, not for the sake of numbers, but just for the sake of like, you thought I had something to say then, like I have even more to say now. And I want people to hear that growth. But I kind of had to set back and I'm like, why am I so desperately trying to gain back an audience for a person that I don't even feel like I am anymore? And so I'm just finding my new audience, finding this.
You gotta find your new audience.
Yeah. And it's been a big relief. It's been more scary though, because I feel like I'm starting from like ground level, like all over again.
So what was this identity crisis you were just talking about earlier?
So when I was 14, that was back whenever Vine was a big thing. And I remember before the app shut down, I think I had something around like 50K followers. And I didn't even post a whole lot about music. I posted a lot about like, being a One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer fan, like just the whole fangirl social media like thing that was going on at the time. And it was a big community. And that was also the time where I feel like internet friends started to become like a big thing. And I remember writing this song called Break the Distance. And I remember telling my followers about it. And so many people were like, oh my God, yeah, nobody really has written a song about that specifically. And it was about my friend in Belgium, Elena. And we still talk to this day. And so whenever I wrote the song, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to release it. And it's like, I already had like a big kind of platform at the time. And so whenever it released, it hit number 9 on the singer-songwriter charts on like iTunes. And I just remember being so confused because I was like, I don't get it. And then I realized there's so much beauty in a community where people feel like the things that they want to hear haven't been said, or at least someone hasn't said it like on a streaming platform, I guess. And so being that for so many people was awesome, but not even 2 years later, I was already like, I don't feel like I fit this style of music anymore, which was hard because when I felt that, I was already like, that was before I even put out the first EP, which was still in that kind of like singer-songwriter folky style. So as I was promoting this project, it just didn't feel like me anymore. Not to say that I didn't love it, but it was just kind of hard because I feel like I was promoting someone who I didn't really feel connected to anymore. And then over the time span, I was like, I re-recorded the song Break the Distance and I did a 2.0 version, which surprisingly, that song, very, very thankful about, hit 4 million streams, which I had no idea how people were going to take me turning probably like, because some people it's like their favorite song. It's like their anthem for whether it's like a loved one, a significant other, a partner, a friendship. And I didn't know how people were going to feel about me taking that and turning it into an R&B song. But I did. And that is kind of where I first unlocked this new audience of people who wanted to hear me sing this more R&B influenced style. So then I released another EP after that. And then I did a lo-fi project that was just kind of really to get my thoughts out. And over the years, I go back and forth between thinking, I'm like, is there even any point in putting out music at all if it's never going to do as good as the first single? And then I have to catch myself and I'm like, that's not why you did this.
Yeah.
Like you didn't, when you were 11, you didn't even have a Spotify account. Like you weren't even able to like comprehend how much money you would make off a stream. And while as an adult, like, of course, now I kind of have to take those things into consideration for the sake of just like living. I have to go back to my 11-year-old self and I'm just like, she would not care about how it does. She would just be like, oh my God, we're like in a recording studio. Like people can hear my music. And so it's just very much like, it's a weird thing to try to not be jealous of your younger self.
Well, I think it's something that never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
I think what gets better is our ability to talk back to those thoughts when they come up. But I think they're never ending because I also get the same thoughts about, one day maybe I can live off my podcast. I can travel the world and interview artists around the globe in different cities and really get to explore the different, the intricacies of the art world and artists in different geographic locations. And that would be a dream, but that takes like having an audience. And sometimes I'm like, this is going to be my 14th episode. And sometimes I get in my head like, oh, I want it now. But there's just like so much growth for me to do. And then also like, I have to remind myself that I do this because I love people. I love connecting with others. And particularly I love connecting with artists. I like to hear their philosophies in a selfish way to kind of inspire my own journey and like learn something from them. So
and I feel like I have such a great support system because they have known me, like my roommate, my creative director, my best friend, Maddie, she's known me ever since that song. Like she was a follower of mine and she heard that song and that's how we like started our friendship. And so it's really, and so like she didn't know that I lived in Dallas. And so she came to like, it was at the point where like so many people on social media were like, I want to meet you in person. And I was like, oh my God, friends, like people who like me. And so I did like a little meetup at like a local mall and she came and like, I don't know, something about her really stuck out to me. And she's just like one of my favorite people. So it's really nice having her because like she has known me from that time of my life, and she had like, we have grown up together. And so anytime I'm kind of just like really anxious about a song, she's like, but who cares? Like, it's good and it's you. Like, she got to hear the most recent single that I released, like as soon as the demo was done. And she was like, Ashton, like, this is one of your best songs. And I was like, thank you, because I believe that too. And sometimes it's hard because as much as I want to believe that what I make is the best so far of what I've already made, it's really nice to hear from other people, because sometimes I can get in my own head about it. And so, yeah, it's just having to go back and realize that while I'm so happy for 14-year-old Ashton's success, like, I'm so excited to see what 24-year-old Ashton is going to do next.
Have you been reached out to by any labels or anything in your life?
Like small local labels here and then, but I feel like that's a big thing that people always ask. They're like, well, like, do you want to be signed to a label? And I think eventually, yes, because there's a lot of things that a label can do for you. But I feel like when it comes to that, I'm such a all or nothing person that, and that's not to say not to support your like local artist community and representation, but I feel like I'm in such a special spot where I have so much creative freedom and ability to do what I want. And yeah, it feels like a lot more work having to like basically be my own promotional team and like do all this stuff for myself. I'm like, when am I ever going to be able to do this again? Because let's say one day like a big label does reach out, you know, I might not have a lot of say in what I do anymore. And I think I'd be fine with that, because I feel like by that point I will have really solidified who I am as an artist. And I feel like that will transcend past how they promote me or how they market me. But in like right now, I've already gotten so far that I'm like, it's kind of just like seeing how far can I get until I get to that moment. And I know when that moment happens, it'll happen for a reason. You know, there's so many artists that were discovered in their mid to late 30s. So I feel like lately the pressure has been off, because growing up in the era of like the Justin Bieber type, you know, and it's like, I don't think I ever want to be like a mega star like that, but it's just like, there's something to be said about instant success. And it's hard because part of me wants it and the other part of me doesn't, because I feel like they contribute to like the longevity of your career.
How can you look back on your life and say, I'm so proud of how I got here and not had a process to go through?
Yeah, I honestly just think it's just the numbers, and not even a way of like, oh, look at me, like I have this many people, you know, because it varies on different platforms. But it's just like the fact that like I have no team yet. I've been at a steady over 100,000 monthly listeners on my Spotify. I'm like, okay.
100,000?
Yeah.
That's
like,
really good.
Thank you. I like, it's hard because you would think that once you get to that moment that you're just like, oh, like
proud of it,
I'm
or
proud
just
of it.
like, that's all I need.
That's all you need. But then it's just like, as music changes and adapts, and like every day I look at my stats, not for a sake of like, I want more, like in a greedy way, but it's just like, I love looking at where the music is being listened, and I love looking at the playlist that people put it on. It's not so much just like how many people listen. Like I text my little team every day. I'm like, this is how we did today. Not so much because I'm like, oh, we're blowing up, like all this stuff, because some days a song gets 300 streams, other days it gets 30, but it's more so just like, people listened to us today. Like we did something and people are listening to it. And so it's like, I feel like I'm very proud of that by myself. And I'm very proud that all the writing of everything that I've put out has been 100% me. And so, yeah, I'm just really glad that I've never filtered my thoughts. Like I can look back at every song and it really is crazy, because I don't really listen to a whole lot of my older stuff. But when I do, I'm like, oh my God, I remember that exact feeling. I remember, especially as I've gotten more emotionally vulnerable in my writing, like the last project that I released, Things I Never Told You, that was a lo-fi project. So the production was very simple, very good though. But I listened back to that writing and I'm like, oh my God, I remember being 20, being broken up with on the phone in my 1-bedroom apartment in LA, completely like isolated and alone from everybody. And just, I hear that girl and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But then I have people messaging me and they're like, this was the only thing that got me through my breakup. And I'm like, okay, then we like hurt together and it's
that
okay.
That song you listen to and you play on repeat.
Yes. My Spotify, like the thing is that I'm a very optimistic and happy person on like in my day to day. But when it comes to my writing, I feel like that's the only place where I do feel like a safe space to be emotionally vulnerable. Because growing up in a very type A household, crying it was like, what are you crying about? you know, like feel later, like resolve the solution first and then feel later. And so in my day to day, I'm very organized and very good at like taking care of things right away. Like with this last breakup, like when he broke up with me, like I immediately went around my apartment, took everything that he gave me, like put it in a bag, put it down the trash chute. And I was just like, okay, step one is done. But then like 2 days later, I wrote the song about the breakup. And it was like kind of one of the first moments that I really allowed myself to feel sad for myself in that moment. And so songwriting, and I feel like so many other writers feel this, songwriting is my only way to actually like let myself be sad. Cause I wish I cried more, but I just like by default of how I was raised as a child, I don't. But then when I write, all my friends are like, oh my God, like that's what you were feeling the whole time. Like who did this to you? Like, and it's sad, but I think it's one of my favorite things about being a songwriter.
Well, maybe you don't cry, but you're writing songs. It's still a form of expression.
Yeah. And like a release. And
yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I feel like it's just one of my favorite things. And sometimes I get in my own head about, I feel like all the songs I write are sad, but you know what? I can't care about that too much because if that's what I'm feeling, this is my safe place, then I need to take advantage of that. And just some of them might not ever see the light of day, but at least I wrote it and at least I like felt it.
Do you focus mostly your songwriting on events in your life that cause sadness?
I think because I feel like a lot of people, and everybody knows this, a lot of writing has to do with like dating and relationships. And I can't help the way that I've been treated in my dating life. And it's just a lot of letdowns and a lot of like unencouraging things. And so I feel like the only way, because I'm a hopeless romantic, I'm very much like, I want it so bad. And people who know me in real life, you would think with how many times I've been let down that I would have become super cold and built up all these defense mechanisms and all these walls. And it's like, yes, my intuition has gotten stronger, but at the end of the day, like, I'm still just like, I still just want to like be loved and fall in love with someone. And I get so close every time, but every time I never get a fair shot. I never get a fair chance. They end up changing their minds. They end up, I don't know, just something, not to be like I'm perfect, but it's just like it never works out for me. Like I never.
Girl, you are.
I just like never get the chance to have the title of being someone's girlfriend. And I really do want to be in a relationship, like a long-term relationship. But so that's where I go to writing, because I feel like if I don't write, then I am going to become cold and I'm going to lose that hopeless romantic and I'm going to not believe in love in that way. And so I feel like the main reason why a lot of the songs that I write tend to be a little bit more sad are because it's the way where it's just like, at least I can make art out of this. Because if I don't think if I was able to make art out of it, then I would just be stuck with those feelings and I would get bitter. I would let the hurt take over and make me someone who doesn't believe in love. And so, you know, like whenever I do have feelings for someone, the songs that I write about that are amazing. And I get so excited and they are just as good as the sad songs. But I can't help that I've been faced with more letdowns than ups when it comes to the things that I want to write about. So I just have to take advantage of making art out of it instead of letting it make me become a sad, bitter person.
Mm-hmm. So you've never been in a long-term relationship?
No. And I like think there's a lot of circumstances surrounding that. I would say like I'm very picky, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. But there's also the fact that I switched over to online school for high school, my second semester freshman year, because that's whenever music started to really pick up for me. And my mom was just like, I can't keep on pulling you out of school for like these gigs and these auditions and stuff. So like, do you want to just do online school? And I was like, yeah. So I did that. And it wasn't to say that I didn't have any friends or didn't go out and hang out with people, but it's just like, I didn't really know a ton of people. And then just, I didn't go to college. You know, I've just always been working on music and I've gotten so many chances, you know, like there's the situationships. That's like a lot of what this new project is about. And I haven't really ever been in a long-term relationship. And it makes me sad because I feel like I would really thrive in that. But, you know, I want it really bad. And so I feel like in the meantime, I just have to like keep writing, because if I'm so focused on what I don't have in my day to day and I can just get it all out at once whenever I write, then maybe I'll like focus on it a little bit less. But it's a daily struggle because a lot of my friends are in long-term relationships and I like love cheering them on so much and I love watching them fall in love. But then it's like, of course, you're always being like, damn, what's wrong with me? No. There's nothing wrong with me. And it's hard because I have to like tell myself that every day.
What about long-term relationships interest you?
I'm a very committed person. I'm committed to my career. I'm committed to my friendships. I love just caring for people and letting people know that I care about them so much. Like I'm one of those people where I hang out with my friends and I'm like, oh, I needed this, you know, like I just love the idea of romantic love. And I love the idea of platonic love as well. But I just feel like it's the matter of, I feel like I never got a fair chance. And my parents growing up, they have more of like a business type relationship. So like they love each other and they were great parents, but I just have always wanted to have like that love that like I read about and that I hear about in songs. Like there's this one song by Amy Winehouse called There's No Greater Love that I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, this is what love is. And then there's an Elle Fitzgerald song called The Man I Love that I'm like, oh my God, this is what love is. I hear Your Song by Elton John and it makes me sob because I'm like, as a songwriter, I can't fathom being the one to have songs written about me. And so I don't know, I may have a romanticized idea of love. Like I know that there's like the really hard parts and like the really exhausting parts that you have to work and fight for, but I want even that. Like, I just want a fair shot. And I feel like I haven't even gotten that. So I know it'll happen. And I'm just glad that I have these songs that I'll be able to look back at with like my future husband and just be like, this is how I felt while I was waiting for you. Like,
yeah.
Like,
why didn't you come sooner?
I know. I'm like, I was calling out for you, but I definitely think that it has its purpose because a lot of these songs that I write, especially on this last project, are songs that I wish I had for myself. And that's why I write. I really just want, because if I were going through what I was going through and I couldn't, and I didn't make songs about it, I really do feel like I wouldn't have any songs to listen to about that. Not to say that there aren't songs that I listen to where I feel about it, but they're more so about breakups as opposed to like being led on and like love bombed for 4 months only to have them had been seeing someone else like the whole time, you know, like those are specific. And music is such like one of the only ways that I can really feel that I'm like, if I can't hear a song that's exactly about what I'm going through, then I have to write it.
Well, I believe you'll find love.
I do too.
I think in my experience, love in that deepest form is rare. Mm-hmm. I think it comes through your life rarely. And for two people to also have synchronicity and find that love together,
yeah,
it's a difficult thing. Mm-hmm. And it's rare. But I do think like with time, you'll get there and you'll meet someone.
Yeah. And I'm like so excited. And it's just like, I know it'll be worth it and everything. But I'm just really glad that within my writing, like the whole project itself is called Great Girl because it's the title track. And Great Girl, I think, was one of the most therapeutic songs I've ever written because it's just that whole thing where it's like you see someone and things do feel like they're going really good, but then they decide, which in my case has just happened almost every time. They're like, such a great girl and you're so sweet, you're so funny, you're so beautiful, like you're all these things, but I can't be this for you right now and I'm not ready for a relationship. And it's not to say that those aren't valid things to feel, but it's also just like you knew what you were doing. You knew the time we spent, the things we said, the things we did, that meant something to me. And it obviously meant something to you if we were seeing each other for like over a month, 2 months, 3 months, you know, like talking to each other, taking time for each other like this. I think you can have reflection. And obviously if you really feel like you can't be with someone in that way, then that's totally valid to end that. But I just can't help but so many times I've been told this and I look back and they're either seeing someone new right after, or it's just the complete opposite of what they meant.
You feel betrayed.
Yeah. And that's what it is. And so Great Girl is mainly like the main line of the chorus is these circumstances, they always ruin all my chances. But in the end, I always know that they'll leave me left alone and I'll act like I'm not hurt because he said I'm a great girl. Because it's like you're getting all these compliments and all these affirmations as to why they would love to be with you. But then it's like, why are you saying all of that for the end of the conversation to be like, I can't be with you, or like, I don't want to be with you. And it's just like, I would rather you just tell me instead of...
Do you feel like they owe you something?
It's not so much that they owe me something. It's just I could have gone so many conversations without being told how amazing I was as just a buffer for them to...
figure out their own goals.
Yeah. Like if you were to come to me and just be straight up honest with me, because I've had people like this before that I've dated where they're like, I'm going to be so honest with you. Like I've had a great time, but I just don't think I can do this right now. That's so easy. But it's the people who have like told me to meet up with them, sit me down and they explain how far I'm going to go in life and how amazing I am and how amazing all the things I'm doing. And it's like, while they may mean that like full-heartedly, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because it makes me want you more. It's just the desire of wanting to be needed and wanting to be loved. So if I'm hearing all the reasons why you should like have feelings for me, and then you're just being like, I have these feelings for you, but I can't pursue them. I'm like, oh my God. Then like, what was all that for? Like, was I just a month-long experiment for you to realize that you really can't date anybody? Because if that happened 1 or 2 times, I would be like, yeah, that's fair. You know, that's just life. That's how it happens. But it's the way that it happens. Like, it's happened over like 4 or 5 times now that I'm just like, oh my goodness.
It can start to feel like something's in the air.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just like all my friends.
Bad luck.
All my friends are like, because I'll get my intuition, my gut feeling, and I'm like, ooh, they're about to end it. Like, I can feel it. It's like a spidey sense. It's insane. And I'm right every time, but all my friends are like, well, you don't know, like they're different. Maybe they're this, maybe they're that. And no, it's just
trust
like,
that intuition. Girl.
I know. And
there's no need to sugarcoat it. You know?
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the worst part, because I'm a person where, especially, words of affirmation is my love language. So when you're feeding into my love language simultaneously while you're letting me down, it leaves me so confused and very insecure, because I don't know if what you're saying to me is actually true. And so I feel like so many people, like, no matter of like sexuality or gender, like has heard that same great girl speech where it's like, even like not even dating, like sometimes friendships, sometimes like even a job, like it's just the idea of like you're being led on, you know? And I think Great Girl has just become so much more than a song, is its own person, and it's its own being. Like, me and my friends see or hear something and we're like, that's so Great Girl. Like, there's movies that I reference a lot, like this one movie called He's Just Not That Into You. The main character, Gigi, she is so Great Girl, like hopeless romantic, super naive, been told so many times she's gullible.
Who's the actress in that?
I can't remember. She was just like, hold on, let me look it up. And then also,
I'm thinking like Kate.
No, that's not Kate Hudson. He's just not.
That's How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yes.
Those rom-coms were so good.
I know, right? Who is the girl? Jennifer Goodwin.
Yeah.
And then also like Harry Met Sally, like when Harry Met Sally, Sally is so Great Girl, where it's like she's been told she is like too high maintenance, has too many high standards. But then it's like when she gets her heart broken, she's like, what's wrong with me? Like, I've been told all these things about how I'm so great and amazing, but then they can't be with me. And it's not even to really like, because I've been in the other position before, where it's like, oh, I feel like I really can't be with this person right now. I feel like there's some things that I need to work on myself. But even I don't think I've ever gassed someone up as much as I've been gassed up as like when I've been let down. And like, I'll just be like, I really appreciate you, but I just don't think I can be with you in this like romantic type of way right now. But I've never been like, you're so cute and you're so funny and you're so amazing and you're so handsome and any girl would be lucky to date you and I wish I could date you so bad. Like,
that's so lame.
I know.
Are you dating younger guys or same age?
I try to shoot for around same age or older. I know I should definitely probably shoot for older just because I feel like the most luck I have has been with one guy and he's only been like a year older than me and we're like good friends now and everything is like great. But because he was honest with me. He was honest with me about his situation and how he doesn't think, he was like, I really do like you, but like, I don't want to put you in an unfair situation where you wouldn't get the attention that you deserve. And I'm like, that's real. That's so real. And I appreciate you for being honest with me about that. As opposed to this one guy who was like, you're so amazing. You go so far in life, you know, like the whole thing. And then he would just be like, and I want to be with you so bad, but I just can't. And I'm like, huh? Like, if you want to be with me that bad, you'd fight for me. But I mean, I try not to get too bitter about it, but I definitely think it's a sore spot. And I think that's why I made this project, is because I really just wanted to have a space where I could feel everything and have it like in something kind of tangible that I can look back on. Because I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm so aware of what that feeling is, and it's Great Girl. And so I'm excited to see how other people take it. Like when I play it for groups of friends and their friends, they're just like, oh my God, this has happened to me. Like exactly. And it pisses me off every time. And I don't know what to describe it as or like how I should go about feeling. I just feel confused. And it's like, yep. And that's what I feel.
I want to go back to stage performance or just you said in high school you were having gigs and things like that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to know what your experience was with stage performance and how you adapted.
Yeah, so I've just always been a very charismatic child, and I've never been afraid to kind of be on a platform, just because I think from a very young age, I always knew that I had something to say and I want people to listen to me. And so when it comes to like gigging, being a gigging musician, like the kind of non-glamorous side of it, most of the time I'm just background music, but I like to think of it as a way of, I am someone who loves jazz. I have always loved jazz. It's been one of my favorite genres. And so I just kind of picture myself, I'm just like a little lounge singer in the background. And I think moments like that are when I kind of connect with people the most sometimes, because some people will come up and they'll be like, I thought you were the radio. And then I like actually listened to what you were saying. And I like really understand what you're saying. And like the songs you're singing are really good. And it's like a new outlet for an audience. But when it comes to stage performance, a lot of people do ask, they're like, do you ever get nervous or all that stuff? And I think the only times that I really do get actually nervous are when I know that the audience is like intently and specifically there for me. Because I can put together a show and put out flyers and stuff, and it can be like an accumulation of people where it's like friends, family, and like strangers, and like people who listen to me on Spotify and like all this stuff. And it's a little less pressure. But for my birthday, I did basically like my own version of an NPR Tiny Desk in my apartment, because I love those. I think it's just like one of the most intimate ways you can listen to music. And I did the whole project as an acoustic set, and I was excited, but I was also really nervous because I was like, these are all my really close friends. And I know they're not only just going to listen to the songs and be like, yeah, this is a good song, but they're going to listen to every word. And probably all of them know exactly who these songs are about. And so I was nervous, but it went over so well, because I think once I get over the hump of being like, oh my God, I'm about to be so vulnerable in front of people who I know are listening. And then I'm like, but they're listening and they want to hear me and they want to understand me and they want to feel with me. Because a lot of my music, sometimes I feel like people will hear it and they'll take pity on me. And that's not what I want. I just want people to understand that if you're feeling the same way that I am, that you're not alone in it. Because I think one of the worst things is feeling alone in an emotion that you don't know how to describe. And so music really is that safe space for people to feel those with you. And then it's a whole community and nobody feels alone.
And what about for your upcoming album? Do you plan to do a tour?
We're trying to work something out to maybe do a small Texas tour, like an acoustic tour, because when we did that show for my birthday, we were like, this was like one of our best shows yet. Like everybody was so locked in, because I think it was such an intimate setting that, and also I've just been really like, because over the years, having a big audience on like different like streaming platforms, I can look at my numbers and I see I'm like in Indonesia and in England and like Australia, and it's really cool. But I think for like, I really have been wanting to build a local audience lately, and I'm just like,
I think a great way to do that would be touring.
Yeah, like definitely like hitting like Austin, Houston, like Dallas, Fort Worth, because I feel like the thing with Texas is that we love Texas, but then sometimes we'll go out to like LA or New York or Nashville or like different parts of life. And so it's just like, once I get my strong group here, then it'll spread throughout the US and then spread throughout the world. And it won't be so much just like a random collective of people listening to my music on streaming platforms, but more like a ride or die audience that if I say that I'm doing a show, they'll like pull up. And I do have a really good Dallas support system, and I'm excited to see what all will happen once this project is out in regards to like performances and stuff. But yeah, I would love to tour. I'm trying to get better at pushing myself to do things that I
make you uncomfortable.
Not so much that I make me uncomfortable, but that I thought were unattainable. Because since I'm such a realistic person, sometimes I'm like, if it doesn't seem attainable, then I'm like, well, I shouldn't even like try. I don't want to embarrass myself.
Well, girl, this life is a video game. So just put yourself out there. It doesn't matter. It'll all get buried in the long run.
Yeah.
And who cares? Like everybody who starts a craft most people are not good at when they first start something. And the fact that you're putting yourself out there and you're growing, you're learning, and be gentle on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just, and then it's also just like comparison too, because I'll watch documentaries of like my favorite artists and I'm just like, that happened so fast for them. And I'm kind of just like realizing it's like, who cares how fast it goes? Like I'm only 24. I'm like 1/4 through my life.
I know. And I'm 27 and I feel like time's running out.
Yeah, no, but
it's crazy. This 20-year-old syndrome of this like generation. It's like they make you feel like you have to accomplish everything in your 20s.
Yes. And what's wild, and it's like, I heard someone say this, like honestly kind of gave me like a really good perspective. Like everybody knows the TV show Friends. They're like in their 30s, the whole show. Like their late 20s, like mid 30s, the whole show. And I don't know about you, but like when I watch that show, I'm like, look at them. They're cool. They're living their life in New York and like they work and they perform and
they're
like,
barely surviving.
I know. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're affording an apartment in New York, and with their apartment, that thing is huge.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of
they were roommates and stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of like, why are we putting so much? And I really do think it's social media. Like social media is great, but I definitely think it has put so much unnecessary pressure on people, especially artists, to get to a certain level. But you know, like as long as you continue to put out your art, that's the only thing you can do. And that in itself is a success.
It is a success. I agree with that. So how are you surviving these days now that you're just making music and you're not living off the craft yet? Are you working or anything?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a science. I have 3 different forms of income. 2 of them are music, which is really cool. So as the price of living in Dallas gets higher, you know, you kind of just have to adjust. But so I love talking about this actually with people, especially small artists, not to be like numbers, money, but it's just like, this is the real part that people don't want to talk about. Like people don't want to hear that you're making 0.004th off of a cent for a Spotify stream, because it's hard to hear, because you're like, what the hell? Like I'm working so hard for this and this is all I get. Not that it's about money, but it's like when you are an artist, all you want to do is to be able to live off your craft, not financially, but just for the sake of like, I don't want to have to think about anything else besides the art. I don't want to think about how I'm going to have to pay this bill or like all the extra jobs I'm going to have to pick up. So I am very, very fortunate and very, very lucky to be able to like pay for part of my bills from my streaming revenue and from people using my music in their YouTube videos and all that stuff. And then I'm also like still a gigging musician, which in itself is a fun community and is very much, makes me feel like I'm very much in that like artist scene, you know. And then there's also just like me being a little barista, you know, I love coffee and I love talking to people, and you meet really cool people every day at a coffee shop. And so it's one of those things that sometimes I'm not embarrassed to talk about, but it's just like, you want to set up this idea that I'm an artist and all I think about is art and all I do is art. But it's just like, life is life, and life sometimes doesn't show mercy to artists. And you know what, that's just the way it is, and you have to adapt. So yeah, I woke up at 4:30 this morning from my barista shift, went home, did some writing, did some promo research for this new music, and then I came here to do this. And so it's just like kind of fun that I get to live a double life almost.
Yeah. What have you learned about going viral, and do you have any plans for your promotions and maybe figuring out how to get there?
What I learned about growing viral, and I'm honestly really glad that I took it the way that I did, because I feel like I could have gotten so much more in my head about it. But I was 14. I didn't know what to do. I put the song out and that was it. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any team. I just every day would talk to people who would be like, I love this song. And I'd be like, thank you so much. Like, I just loved talking to people about how they received the song. And that's all I did. But I feel like for this new project, especially with having a little team, it's been really fun to figure out how to put visuals to this music, because while my boys have done an amazing job at taking this whole world that I've created inside my head and giving it executing it and like giving it an audible sense, then there's the visual sense. And that's where my lovely best friend Maddie Bounds has come in, because she has always been the one where I'll show her anything that I make, and I'll just be like, and you know, maybe it could look like this. And she goes, I know exactly what you're talking about. She'll make like 3 Pinterest boards, and all the visuals that we came up for Headin Out were her idea. She had a storyboard on her iPad, and it was really cool because when you're an artist, you meet other artists and you just help each other. Like, she got one of her high school friends, Saro, who's an amazing videographer, and he brought all his gear and we shot it in front of my friend's house. And she's also been super great with promoting me and everything.
Whose feet were they?
Whose feet? Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is so funny. My friend,
well, context first.
Yeah. So basically in the promo, we wanted the first visual to be very vague and really emulate kind of like the whole visuals we wanted to emulate were very much like the exciting parts about when you're talking to someone and you're kind of just like, every time you see them, you like get really giddy. And we really kind of wanted to see how well we could emulate the idea of like, you're seeing someone and you're like, do you want to hang out right now? And they're like, yes, I'm on my way. Like, I'm there. And there's a little Easter egg in it where he has a bouquet of flowers, and it's the same flowers, white roses, that were in the song that I released 2 years ago called Bring Me Flowers. And then we really wanted to emulate like the masculine versus the feminine. So I'm wearing a dress and frilly little socks, and then he's wearing like sneakers and like a denim jacket. And so the feet in the video were actually my friend Caden. I've known him since so we did theater together back when I was 11, and he's amazing. He's in a band as well, Counter Expressive. They're really good. And he's also like in school for acting. So it's just really nice. Like anytime I need to do something, if I need a videographer, a photographer, like a creative director, an actor, an actress, like I just have a slew of my amazing friend group, my amazingly talented friend group that I get to pick from. And then what's nice is that like anytime they need me, I'm there, you know, like it's a big support group. But yeah, the feet in there were my friend Caden's.
Very cute.
Yeah. And that whole project was so fun to shoot. Like I look back at those visuals every day and everybody's always like, oh my God, when I'm listening to the song on Spotify and I see that clip of you guys like kissing by the light pole, like that was really cool. And I'm like, that was the last shot we did. That was just a last minute idea. So it was just really cool to see how many different parts of the song we could bring to life.
Isn't it so fun to have people who believe so much in your work just as much as you do?
It makes me want to cry. Like I get so emotional anytime I do anything with anybody in my team. Like I did a photo shoot and Maddie was like positioning me and everything, and there's this picture where she was positioning my hand, and in the picture she's holding my hand, and I saw that and I was like, I'm gonna cry. Like just something so beautiful about friends supporting friends. And like the boys know, like I get so mushy about them every time. Like anytime I release something, I'm just like, I love you guys so much and I'm so proud of us, because I have been doing this alone ever since I was, you know, like when I released my first song at 14. And while I'm so proud of myself, just really does feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, because it's hard to find people who genuinely believe in you for the sake of believing in you and for the sake of art. And I already am so insecure as it is. And I think with songwriting, this is where I'm the most vulnerable. So it's like, damn, I'm vulnerable and I'm insecure. Like I need support. And so it's just being with people who are like, no, like people need to hear what you have to say. And CJ will always gas me up, and he's like, okay, yeah, he's like, whatever. CJ is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And I really do feel like it was like, God really was just like, these two people need each other to make art. And so it's just been... No, yeah, we met at like this big thing that was put together by our friends Chloe and Milan.
Shout out the company name.
They're not like really a company anymore, but it was an event called Paradigm, and there were many.
I was talking about his production.
Oh yeah, well it wasn't them that put it together, but Greenhouse, they are just like, that's Jack, Natty, and CJ. Those are my boys. Like I like see them every week, and every week it's something new, and they just have always done such a good job at like making me feel seen and appreciated. And I think I can just really get in my own head. And it's really funny though. Like I would not expect like the three people who understand me and like are ready to be vulnerable with me the most to just be like three dudes. But we're like a music group version of New Girl almost. And so it's just like, Natty's really good.
Special.
Yeah, it's so special. It's like, these are like my brothers. They're like some of my best friends. And every time we do like a show together, or we get to be together as like a band, every time afterwards, we're always like hugging and we're like, oh my God, like, did you feel that? Like, that was amazing.
That's
like
so exciting.
Yeah. And so I'm excited to see.
I think you guys are going to go far. I think you guys are going to do great things. Yeah. And I truly believe in it. I think you guys put together a project that's super high quality and sounds very professional, and I can't wait to see everyone attack it, swarm it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's going to be really great, and I can't wait to see like what we do for like the live aspect of it all.
Oh, that reminds me, going back to the promo research, what have you learned in your current research about going viral?
There's no key into going viral. It's all by chance and by luck. And I think I'm not ever so much worried about going viral, is that I just want a project to have longevity, you know? So it's just like, as much as I would be excited one day for maybe a song to just like randomly start getting like 1,000 streams a day, if I can have a steady number throughout the day, I'm like, this is like, I mean, because it's like a child, you know? It's like, I don't ever want to like have it
rush it.
Yeah, I don't ever want to rush it. I don't want to put an expectancy on it. You know, I think that there's healthy like things to like, we got 1K on the song within the first week, and that was really cool. And I was just like, you know, sometimes I'll be on my social media and I'm like, hey, let's see if we can hit this number by this time. Not so much because I'm greedy for a certain number, but it's just like the more consistent you are with something, the longer it's going to be able to last.
Exactly. Are you on TikTok and Instagram?
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty much Ashton Edminster. It's just Ashton Edminster straightforward on my Instagram, Ashton Edminster on my TikTok. I don't really go on Twitter that much, but that one's Ashton Edmin, just because I had Ashton Edminster, but they locked me out because they suspended my account because I would post covers, and they were like, you're claiming to be Adele because you posted a cover of her. And I was like, nope. So I did have an audience of like 16K on there before they shut me out. But you know what? I'm like, social media is, you know, like,
you're impersonating Adele.
Yeah, they were literally, it was like a whole copyright thing. And so I was like, well, I don't think I'm really going to post covers anymore because
because you were singing like more than 15 seconds.
I guess. And so, but you know what? I feel like that makes it even more of a good challenge, because once that happened, I got really nervous about my YouTube channel because I had a bunch of covers on there. So I took them all down and I was like, I'm just going to start posting like acoustic versions of me and my guitar with songs that maybe one day I'll go into the studio and record. Maybe one day I won't, and they'll just live on here forever, like there in my SoundCloud. And it's kind of nice. Like, it's really like, it's because I mean, the audience is so spread out that if I get to like share these songs with people in their raw form, that like, who knows, like, because sometimes I've done that and then a lot of people really like that one. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go ahead and record this one so you can listen to it on like other streaming platforms. And it's
a good way to test things out.
It really is.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, what is your buried dream? This can be something that makes you uncomfortable, that you're hoping to achieve in the short term or in the long term.
I think just going on tour, because that's something I've wanted ever since I was a kid. Like on my first EP, I wrote this one song called Singing Road, about how I like, and it was like my take on a little folky song, but it was really just about like, music is all about connection. And I feel like live performances are the best way to do that. And I really just want to see how far I could go geographically. And not even that I want to sell out stadiums, but I just like want to see how many places I can go and see how many people would be excited to listen to me and like share this experience. So it's scary because it seems unrealistic, but it's just like, I think that's one of the things that I've wanted the longest time.
Yeah. Have you traveled a lot recently?
Honestly, I want to travel more, but it's just the sake of, you know, money and being able to like take off work and do this and do that. I want to travel more really bad. And so hopefully I can do that within this next year after this project is out, because I have no idea how it's going to do. Like, I've never released this many songs all at once. It's 7 songs, and the most I've released has been 5. And like on those projects, there's been interludes that are like less than like 2 minutes. So it's just like, this is the closest thing. It's like not so much an EP, not so much an album. So we've been calling it a mixtape to pay homage to like some of the great R&B legends. Kehlani's one of her first projects was released as a mixtape. So we've been really liking calling it that. It feels kind of appropriate.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Kehlani. At some point, there was a harmony that happened. I was like, this is Ariana Grande.
Yes, yeah.
You can see a bunch of different influences throughout the whole mixtape.
It's been really cool because I just really do feel like the new wave of, trust me, I love, and I could talk about 90s R&B forever, but like Kehlani, Summer Walker, SZA, Ariana Grande, like it's been, her is one of my biggest inspirations. I think there's just like, especially because she's so like, starts her songs on guitar, and I'm like, that's exactly how I write. And so yeah, this new wave of female R&B, and Jhené Aiko too. It's just, there's something so soft-spoken and intentional about their writing. And so it's been really fun getting to take inspiration from that and interpreting that in my own form.
And what's the kind of style you want to portray on stage when you get to the tour?
We've actually talked about this, where it's like, I have recently been obsessed with Amy Winehouse, and I feel like that roots back to like my obsession with jazz. And I would really like to pay a homage to like the whole jazz singer, like jazz thing, you know? And I feel like if I were to portray a certain vibe on stage for a tour, I would want it to be like as if you were going to a jazz club, you know, where it's just me and a mic stand, because I'm not a dancer.
Like some Sade type thing.
Yes, exactly. And because I'm not a big dancer. I'm not a big mover. I don't have like a whole bunch of hype songs that would require me to like run around the stage a whole lot.
Do whole numbers.
Yes, exactly. Well, I love the pop girlies like that. Like
Dua Lipa.
Yes.
She's great.
Yes, absolutely. She's incredible. Like her last album was so fun.
She's set for life, dude.
No, I know. But yeah, I feel like it'd be really fun, especially because I love like flowers and low lights and candles and long dresses and just really good, beautiful instrumentation that's super intricate and intentional, that I feel like when I think of that, I think of like a jazz club setting. And so I think it'd be really fun to like my own little club. And what's really cool about this project is that there is so much production on it, but when we do it live, it's almost like a completely different project. And so I think it's going to be really, really fun whenever the time comes to be able to showcase that to people and have people hear it in a completely different light.
When you do your tour and you do your shows, are you going to have like a pre-designed set that you bring to each of the locations?
I feel like, because I was talking about this with Maddie, we were just like, if I could have a stage setup, what would it be? And I feel like when it comes to venues, I think certain venues have such beautiful stage setups that you should take advantage of that. But I feel like if I could have a traveling piece with me, I would want like a big like red velvet curtain. I feel like that'd be so fun, especially to like come out of, like peek out of, like
that'd be cute.
Like little long silk gloves, like peek out of it. I would love to have like flowers and stuff at the foot of the stage, like red and white roses, and then just like low light candles, maybe like a really cool rug to stand on, a stool for me to sit on, because I think at the end of the day, like I'm never looking for people to get like super hype at my shows, because it goes back to
more
me.
Like a sing along with their hands over their heart.
And like I've been to concerts like that before where it's just like everybody's there just because they like for the love of the music and the love of the artist.
Frank Ocean did that when I saw him play Channel Orange. He just had an orange like shimmery background and he just had his microphone and he was just singing to the crowd, and the whole crowd was singing every lyric back.
And I love stuff like that. Like I had recently seen Mac Ayres, who's like one of my favorite musicians, and he had a band and it was like hype in some parts, but everybody there was just like vibing to the music. Like it wasn't a situation where it was like 1, 2, jump, because there's a time and place for that for certain artists, and that's just not me, and that's totally okay, because
it's okay.
When I want to experience that, I'll go see an artist that does that. And so like I'm excited to like, I don't know, take the elements that I love and put them into a modern perspective, because I love the idea of like just being a little lounge singer and singing my songs and being sad and dramatic and wanting to feel all the feelings and be in a glamorous way, being vulnerable in a glamorous way where I'm in control.
I think it will be very cathartic for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I am a little bit jealous. I think one of my buried dreams, like maybe in my 30s, is to learn the keyboard and then go on tour with some like indie alternative band.
Yes.
Play for like Granada-sized audiences.
Yes.
I think that'd be so dope.
That's a beautiful.
So I'm pretty jealous, but I'm really happy for you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ashton, for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing you fly.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I know that I'm going to be able to like listen back to this one day and just I'll listen to it while I'm on a tour bus.
Yeah. Well, check her out. She's on all major audio platforms and YouTube.
Yes.
And stay tuned till the end, because we'll be playing her new single, Headin Out.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.